Agenda, then we will have a presentation by, I believe, a representative of the group that filed the appeal, and I believe that would be Mr. John Twitzel, and I believe just John is representing the entire group, if I'm not mistaken. And again, if you just state your name for the record, and you remember you have to pull that mic up and down to make sure we can hear you. There you go. Yes, please begin.
Mayor McDonald, council members, good evening. My name is John Twitzel, and I'm a resident of Village at the Park. Tonight, I'm speaking to you on behalf of those residents at Village at the Park who are adamantly opposed to the proposed Oakmont Senior Living Facility. Our opposition to this facility is based upon the fact that the referenced EIR from which the no negative impact was derived is outdated and does not address the current issues facing Village at the Park residents. Furthermore, the proposed development is not compatible with the neighborhood and will only add to problems already encountered. Village at the Park residents who are opposing this project are not against the sick and elderly. We support them, and we recognize the need for these types of care facilities that assist them. We oppose this development based upon the following concerns. The information referenced in the Oakmont Planning Commission report utilized outdated information found in the EIR, the lack of a current traffic study for Village at the Park, and the unknown impacts to residential property values. Additionally, the proposed development is not comparable to any existing Oakmont facilities or Camarillo senior living centers, nor does this development uphold the objectives set forth in the city's general plan land use element. The EIR for the Village at the Park site-specific plan was certified by the Camarillo City Council on October 10th of 2001. At that time, the EIR was prepared to analyze the potential impacts from changing the land use designation from agriculture to an urban setting. Because the reference EIR does not take into account the current impacts already affecting Village at the Park, there is no way to project how the proposed project will further impact the community without conducting a study. Therefore, a new EIR should be prepared or the project opposed. The Planning Commission would like us to believe that based upon the analysis in the initial study that the proposed Oakmont facility would not have a significant effect on the environment. However, they did not take into account the effects of the growing population and of the city of Camarillo and its impacts to Village at the Park. Since the initial study was performed and the EIR certified, the population has increased 14.2% from 2000 to 2010. Already, the effects of population growth has had a significant effect on the neighborhoods in Village at the Park. In a letter addressed to City Manager Dave Norman from Camarillo Police Department Commander Dave Murray, dated May 1st of 2017, Commander Murray cites the fact that growth trends, as it relates to population, both current and projected, have contributed to an increase in calls for service for two of its busiest areas. And once fully populated, those areas will continue to have a definitive impact on police activity. The areas referenced are the Springville and Village at the Park developments. Commander Murray further explains that while these two developments are not fully built out, they have been the most active in Camarillo's jurisdiction and recommends the addition of one deputy and one SST report writer to offset the current workload brought on by growth. This growth alone, in addition to the projected growth, are further reason to demand a new EIR be conducted or oppose the project entirely. In order to implement the community goals found within the land use element of the general plan, page 4.7 states that principles have been established to discourage through traffic in order to promote safe neighborhoods. It further states on pages 4.18 through 4.19 that in an effort to support local school districts, principles have been established to promote the safety of children by requiring safe sidewalks, bikeways, and crossing in areas adjoining and leading to school sites, and to further protect school plan investments by preserving the character and quality of residential development which surround school facilities and by prohibiting objectionable uses from encroaching into immediate service areas. The land use element of the general plan states that throughout the preliminary review and analysis, the main theme that constantly emerged was that the special quality of life that exists throughout much of the area should be preserved and extended to encompass all of Camarillo and its environs. Without a new EIR, it is virtually impossible to understand how the potential impacts of the project will affect the quality of life that we, the residents, come to know and be proud of. The increase in traffic within Village at the Park is also of great concern. The increase in traffic is directly related to growth and has become worse near the proposed location for several reasons. The Planning Commission and Oakmont have used outdated information as it relates to traffic studies to substantiate their claim that there would be no further impacts to traffic within Village at the Park. These studies do not take into account how the increase in students at Rancho Rosal Elementary School has affected traffic flow in and around the proposed site before, during, and after school business hours. The standards set forth in the general plan state elementary schools should accommodate between 500 to 600 students and ideally service a community with a 1/2 mile radius. The student load at Rancho Rosal is now at 715 students, and with the projected population growth, is sure to increase. Rancho Rosal has students traveling from as far away as Port Hueneme, Santa Rosa Valley, and Camarillo Springs, which are all well out of the 1/2 mile service radius. This is in part due to recent school closures within the Pleasant Valley School District that have occurred since the 2001 EIR was certified. Since there is a lack of mass transit south of the 101, the only possible way for students to attend school from those areas is by means of automobile or school bus. The proposed Oakmont facility would further increase the traffic load Monday through Friday based upon the information regarding busiest times found via Google location services for the Oakmont Cardinal Point in Alameda. Saturdays and Sundays represent the busiest times for Oakmont Cardinal Point facility. This, in conjunction with traffic to and from the sports park on the weekends, would further exacerbate traffic issues due to traffic being routed to the sports park from the northbound 101 freeway via signage into Village at the Park by means of Bridgehampton and Davenport streets. The traffic and parking issues that we have every weekend the sports park is in use are already too much for the existing facilities to handle, leading to visitors parking throughout the neighborhood while leaving little street parking for homeowners. Oakmont at Cardinal Point is the facility that was used by the Crane Transportation Group for the trip generation and parking survey. In this document, the number of non-administrative staff is reduced by 20% due to staff being dropped off or using transit or carpooling. Mass transit in Alameda County is supported by BART, ferry terminals, and the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District, the third largest public bus system in California. It stands to reason that employees would utilize mass transit to go to and from work at that location. However, Camarillo does not offer the same amenities when it comes to mass transit. Therefore, the study conducted is misleading and should take into account all potential impacts from staff driving to and from the proposed site. Traffic flow patterns around the proposed site location would be greatly impacted by essential services, staff, visitors, and 911 emergency response vehicles. Page 12 of the Planning Commission agenda report states Atria Las Posas as currently being the largest RCFE in Camarillo. Using that facility as a comparison, 208 911 emergency calls for service were initiated from January 2016 through January 2017. Each of these responses generated as little as a single resource response up to 5 resources in an effort to mitigate a single 911 emergency call. The total amount of emergency vehicles that responded to Atria Las Posas from January 2016 to January 2017 totaled 620 vehicles. In neither the outdated EIR nor the Crane Transportation Group study, this is addressed. The current traffic increases, along with potential increases that are related to growth and service, need further study. Traffic exiting the north side of the proposed Oakmont facility will not be able to turn left when exiting due to current traffic patterns and roadway striping. All traffic exiting from that location will be forced to exit Village at the Park via Davenport and Bridgehampton streets, thus creating more traffic on those minor collector streets. The safety of the children is of great importance. The increase in traffic throughout the neighborhood and the lack of safe crossings for children are even more reason to conduct a new EIR or oppose the project. Rancho Rosal Principal John Riley urged parents to slow down and use caution when driving in the neighborhood due to the numerous complaints and near misses. While traffic has increased through Village at the Park, it is the intersection at Village at the Park Drive and Davenport Street that create the greatest risk for children, even when a crossing guard is present. At the Planning Commission's hearing regarding the no negative impact declaration, a question was posed as to the effects the facility would have on property values. A single response given by Joe Vaca without supporting documents stated that homes near other senior living facilities throughout the city remain at market value. There is nothing contained in the Planning Commission's agenda report that supports Mr. Vaca's statement. The land use element, page 4.7, states that in order to accomplish the intent of the general plan as it relates to the land use element, policies are established to protect residential property values and privacy by ensuring compatible development with surrounding land uses and by preventing the intrusion of incompatible land uses. Although the proposed site and project are designated as quasi-public, there are no facts given to assure that residential property values in Village at the Park will not adversely be affected by the proposed senior living facility. None of the existing assisted living facilities in Camarillo that are listed on page 10 of the Planning Commission's agenda report are immersed within a residential neighborhood. Of the 21 facilities owned and operated by Oakmont in California, none are immersed within a residential neighborhood. This is a first of its kind for Camarillo and for Oakmont, hence the need for a new EIR or to oppose the project entirely. An environmental impact report is a detailed written analysis of all the effects that a land development or construction project would have on the local environment and is inclusive of things such as population, noise, traffic, safety, and community beauty. The lack of a current EIR does not help the city meet the objectives of the land use element and the circulation element found within the city's general plan. Therefore, the request for a new environmental impact report or opposition to the project is made to assure that the proposed Oakmont Senior Living Facility does not further negatively impact the community of Village at the Park. In summary, the residents of Village at the Park are greatly opposed to the proposed Oakmont Senior Living Center. We are not against the elderly, and we do understand the need for these types of facilities in Camarillo. We believe the location is inadequate and incompatible with the neighborhood. The lack of proper traffic study has given insufficient information, and there is no documentation to support the claims that our property values will not drop due to this facility, especially given that there are no similar facilities in Camarillo or in Oakmont's current locations. Finally, this project does not help the city meet the objectives set forth by the general plan use element. The initial study prepared in 2001 was used to provide information as a basis for the determination of the no negative declaration for the Oakmont project. As stated in the negative declaration, determining the significance of the environmental effects is critical and controversial aspect of the environmental review process. Yet, for this project, not all critical aspects were considered when the declaration was made. The increase in traffic, an outdated EIR, and the unknown impact to home values give reason for a new inclusive impact analysis or opposition to the property or the proposed development entirely. The city of Camarillo as a whole has grown since 2001, and more specifically, as noted, Village at the Park. Much of the information used to determine the potential impacts to what is now known as Village at the Park was based on anticipated changes and growth for our community before building began. The changes that have occurred over the past 16 years since the EIR was certified can now be fully measured and applied to our community that continues to grow. The no negative declaration states that, and I quote, if the project will still result in one or more significant effects on the environment after mitigation measures are added to the project, an EIR shall be prepared. As residents, constituents, and most importantly, concerned parents, we urge you, our elected officials, to request a complete review and a new EIR for the proposed Oakmont facility or oppose it entirely.
Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. You all forgot the rules already. Remember the rules? No clapping.
If I could.
And no booing when somebody says something against what you like.
That's right. It goes both ways.
If I could just continue for my last minute and a half.
And remember the signs people need to see.
So what I've done here is, per the Public Information Act, I've requested through Ventura County Fire Prevention or Fire District some documents pertaining to run calls. So this one here is actually a church on the corner of Arneal and Las Posas. It's larger than the church that you have in the general plan or in the actual EIR. where you base your calculations off of travel to and from. It also has a school attached to it. For that entire year that I stated, one call, one individual resource, an engine company. This using Atria Las Posas as your example, and was brought up by Oakmont, 208 calls for that entire year. 108 of those calls were for falls alone. Another 28 for sick people. Of that, those entire calls, 620 emergency response vehicles, ranging anywhere from a single resource to 5. That could be a ladder truck, that could be an engine company, a squad, or an ambulance, or a combination of all, responded to that location in 1 year. Just recently, Ventura County Fire Department's ladder truck was involved in a collision going code 3, where a vehicle pulled out in front of it. It center punched the vehicle on the driver's side and sent it 75 feet across the street, damaging both trucks, actually totaling the other one. So with all of this information here, you're not taking into consideration in the actual the document provided for the no negative declaration. It says 208 single incidents right there, but we're not talking about one vehicle per each call. We're talking about multiple vehicles. It severely changes the impact both to noise and actually to the amount of traffic coming in and out of the street.
Great, thank you.
There's more pictures I can go over later on.
Yeah, you have a chance to come back. Let me ask, Council, do we have any questions at this point in time that you would like to ask?
I just have one, because I don't see it in here, but isn't Heritage House also one of these qualified residences?
Heritage House is now called Royal Gardens.
Oh, I know, okay. Royal Gardens, I'm sorry. I knew it was Heritage House. My mother was in it. That's why I'm saying
Yes,
I know.
yes, Royal Gardens is considered an assisted
And
living
that's in the middle of a
facility.
neighborhood,
Yes. and
all
it's
sides.
Next to a park, a school.
No, that's not true.
Well, the backside is a mobile home park.
And the other
Across
side.
across the street is houses.
Excuse me, Mr.
Granada.
Granada, that's what I'm thinking of, Granada.
That's
Yes,
not
the
the
one on Granada is also a residential care facility,
Right.
convalescent home, and we didn't analyze that because we didn't feel that that was consistent with an assisted living facility. So that wasn't included in the review.
That's in the middle of the neighborhood.
Yes, it's more of a convalescent hospital rehabilitation facility today.
Yes, it's not just a senior assisted living. Mr. Tremblay, questions? Don't go away in case we have questions for you.
Well, Madam Mayor, just an item of procedure. I was under the impression, mistaken as it turns out, that the attorney for appellants would be here this evening because I had some very specific questions regarding the appellant counsel's letter. And I don't think it's fair to ask the witness, but if it's not out of order, perhaps I could pose what those questions are and then perhaps ask appellant that at some point during the evening, perhaps they could comment or provide that information to us.
I am here, but I'll defer to.
Okay.
However you want to do this procedurally, Madam Mayor.
Let me ask the city attorney. We don't have a problem at this point in time bringing, and since it's questions from council?
Well, we don't, but this question is not being directed to the person that just completed speaking. So since the attorney will have 3 minutes, just as everyone else will, that might be the appropriate time for him to take his 3 minutes or however long he wants to comment, and then perhaps Mr. Tremblay could ask his questions at that time.
That sounds fine. Thank you.
That, or let me suggest this, ask your question of Mr. Twitzel. That gives the city, his attorney time to answer it. So you can ask the question of Mr. Twitzel, you just can't ask it of the attorney.
I think I would prefer just to ask it of the attorney. I can wait until the attorney testifies. That's fine. That would be appropriate procedurally.
So I'm assuming I have a card for you?
I will submit a card.
I have a question,
Yes, please.
unless Mr. Tremblay isn't finished.
Do you have anything else? Okay.
I wrote down that you had 208 calls for service recorded at Atria Las Posas. I didn't get written down what the number was of all of the vehicles that responded.
So, Councilmember Craven, whenever a call is initiated,
Oh, I know there are a lot more. I just didn't get the number.
a total of 620
620.
apparatus.
Thank
That could
you.
be anywhere from a large fire truck, engine, squad, or an ambulance.
I know what
Combination.
they are. I just needed the number. Thank you very much.
You're You're welcome.
Anything else at this point in time? You'll be back, so we might have more when you come back the next time.